G'day, Jay.
Hey, mate.
Good morning. Welcome to the night shift. What can we talk about?
I've run up to give my kind of, opinion on the youth crime thing.
Yeah, what is your opinion? Where do you come from?
I come from a corrections background and a juvenile justice background. So I had worked in juvenile justice for about 5 years.
Wow. In what capacity?
As a youth officer. So
Okay. You are exactly who I want to talk to. So you were a youth officer. Is that like a prison guard?
That's, youth officers.
Okay, you're an officer in a youth detention centre. Whereabouts? Don't tell me which one, but in Queensland, New South Wales?
New South Wales, Western Sydney.
Western Sydney. Okay. You can maybe disperse some of the myths that surround these areas. I've got Pauline Hanson, and she's talking about Queensland, saying that a lot of young kids can't wait to break the law and go into youth detention because it's a holiday, it's an easy ride, 3 square meals a day, and it's safer and more convenient than living at home in the ratbag family they come from. Any truth in that?
110% in New South Wales, that is exactly how it is.
Wow.
So, to give you an idea, a lot of these kids, they come back through, and like Miss Sanson said, they come in, they've got a roof over their head, they've got their mates, their uncles, when I say uncles, Indigenous culture call older boys uncles. They've got people they know, they've got 3 square meals, as she said, they've got unlimited access to gym, facilities.
PlayStation.
Yes, PlayStation. Good example, one of my first days there, I'll use his name as Little Timmy. Obviously, I won't name his kid. We were releasing him, and back home, we gave him a bus ticket and a sandwich to get him where they needed to go. I was about to clean out his cell, and Little Timmy looks at me and goes, "Don't worry about doing that, mate." He goes, "I'll be back. I'll see you, Sabo. Save me room for me." And I kind of chuckled. I had a laugh, and a couple of more experienced youth officers go, "He's not joking. Don't clean out his room. He will be back." We had a police station across the road from the youth centre. We released him. We watched him walk across to the police station, grab a rock, and pelt it straight through the window. 4 hours later, he was back in our centre.
So I keep saying that juveniles keep committing serious crimes because there are no consequences. And I've also said that ankle bracelets, tracking devices, won't work because they'll just cut them off, or they'll wear them and break the law anyway. It won't serve as a deterrent to committing a crime. They don't care. They're committing really serious crimes, and they don't care about the consequences. What are your thoughts?
I agree 100%. They don't care. They don't have any fear. And
no fear.
The reason I rung is I believe in tough love, and I have a good story as to why I believe tough love works. So, as I said, I worked in this juvenile justice centre. I left there because it got too sickening for me to work. I couldn't stand it. There was no consequences. I moved into correctional services. I worked in a centre on the Central Coast, and that centre was purposed for the worst juvenile justice offenders. So any of these kids in JJ's, juvenile justice, who had basically assaulted staff members or just couldn't be controlled by juvenile justice legislation, they were sent to this one particular jail, and they were managed by correctional officers under correctional legislation. So my first day in this centre, the correctional centre, I was walking down for lockdown end of the day, and lockdown, you basically just look in the cell to make sure that the inmate's in there. They match the name and that they're well, and then you check the door handles, they're locked. And as I'm walking down a corridor with about 12 cells in it, and I hear, "Sir," and I paid no attention. As I'm walking back up, I hear, "Sir," again, and I realise this person was talking to me. Not used to being called sir. Juvenile justice, they call you by your first name, baldy, they call you whatever they want. And I say, I opened this slat and I saw the kid, which I had known 2 weeks beforehand. I said, once again, I use his name as Little Timmy. "Little Timmy, what are you doing here?" And he goes, "Jay." He goes, "No, sorry, not Jay, sir. Sir, I call you sir and you're chief." I said, "Okay, no worries." Anyway, he told me, long story short, I was just blown away by just the same kid that was calling me old baldy 2 weeks before was now sir and chief. Next morning we got out. Usually when you let them go in juvenile justice, you ask them to line up in a straight line, to be nice and quiet, make sure you're meant to make sure the rooms are tidy, and you walk them down to the mess hall for breakfast. It's always a shit fight. They're always noisy, carrying on. There's no respect. They don't care. Next morning in Big Boys, when I got them out, lined up, quiet as church mouses, all dressed neatly, we inspected their cells. Every cell was Mickey Mouse. So I guess where I'm going with this story is tough love in corrections. They know if they assaulted a correction officer that they weren't going to get bashed because, we didn't bash them, but they're going to get hit and put down pretty hard. They knew that segregation was actually segregation, whereas JJs, if they assaulted an officer, they were lucky to be put in for 2 hours confinement, and generally they'll be given a book or something to keep themselves occupied. So I guess the moral of this story is that I've seen tough love work. Anyway, this jail that I was at, they were repurposing it for Indigenous only, so the kids had to go back to juvenile justice. The kids knew this 2 weeks in advance, and all the talk for those 2 weeks was, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to riot, we're going to get this kid, we're going to get this worker who put us up here. Sure enough, 2 weeks had gone by, they're in the centre, same Western Sydney centre that I come from, and on the news I see worst riot in history. They'd broken out through the ceiling.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
Grabbed chainsaws, and they were going after the kids that they deemed were pedophiles. It just goes to show that the minute they were back, these kids who were not perfect angels, obviously, but were perfectly behaved in custody, were taken from a correctional environment where it is tough love to a juvenile justice facility, and they just ran amok.
Is it true then, because another theory is that if you lock a child up in juvenile detention, they come out more polished criminals than when they went in?
Sometimes, yeah, I believe so. But
what percentage success rate do you reckon you had at your juvenile detention centre?
I was there for 5 years. I'm going to take a real stab in the dark, maybe 10, 15, maximum 20% success rate.
And the rest of them, the other 80%, 85%, 90%, how many of them do you reckon would end up in a adult prison?
Most of them. If they don't... These guys in juvenile justice and in corrections, they spout out how good their rehabilitation rates are, but it doesn't take into account the kids either die. A lot of these kids that don't go to jail, it's not because they've rehabilitated, they've died, drug overdoses, dangerous behaviour. Very few, because I used to see a lot of them in big boys. You'd walk by and you'd call a roll call, end of the day, lock in, and you'd always recognise name, you'd look up and, you'd see the same kid that you...
Very quickly, Jay, what's the answer?
Tough love. And in my opinion, lock kids up for long sentences and make them get an education.
Lock them up for long sentences and not in a juvenile detention centre like the one you worked in Sydney. You're talking about a tougher prison, are you?
I'm talking about, tougher. They've got it too good in JJ's.
So take away the privileges and make it tough and make sure they get educated.
Or something they can use in real life, because the way it usually goes with these kids is they get out, they have structure, even though it's not much structure in juvenile justice, they have some type of structure, and they actually crave structure. They don't know it, but they do.
They crave structure, isn't that interesting? Listen, Jay, I've got to go. Can I talk to you in more detail on another day?
Yeah, of course, mate.
I promise you I won't give up who you are. Your identity will stay a secret with us. But there's so much more I need to talk to you about. Can I put you back to Thomas and can we get your details and work out a time where you and I can continue the conversation?
Yeah, of course, mate.
Can you stay there?
Yeah, definitely.
Jay, well, that's what he's calling himself, who says he was a prison officer who worked in juvenile justice for 5 years. Interesting stuff, isn't it? Interesting stuff. It's another world to most of us, isn't it? You're listening to The Night Shift on Triple M.